Hey guys, this is Rick with SoCal Home Photo and our little podcast here called Exposure. Today's guest, we have architect Ulysses Carmona. Ulysses, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me,
Cool.
Rick.
Hey, I'm glad to have you here. So let's dive right in. First question for you is about your personal beginnings. Can you share with us where you grew up and how your early environment and experiences influenced your passion for architecture?
So I grew up in Long Beach, California. I was born in Santa Ana, but my family moved to Long Beach. I started just drawing. I liked to draw when I was a kid. And I grew up drawing my own characters. And then eventually when I got into to high school, there was an architecture drafting class. So then I decided to do that for my elective. So I went into that and started drawing, and then got into the more technical stuff. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I did that for all 4 years. And then after that, my teacher, he saw that I really enjoyed it. And he told me if I wanted to pursue it, to try and apply to one of the best schools in the country, which is Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So I applied there, and I was one of the few students that got in for architecture. At that time, it was ranked number 2 in the nation for a bachelor's in architecture. I got in. I was also playing soccer in high school. I was the captain of my varsity soccer team, and I was trying to play college as well. My teammates played for local community colleges, and I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to play for a community college, but had already gotten into Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, so my family and I decided that I should just go in and go into that career.
Yeah, I think that was a solid choice.
Yeah,
That's a solid choice, man. And to get into the university that you really wanted to get into,
exactly.
it's no small feat. We've got a senior at home here that's been applying and hasn't got into the first 2 picks that he wanted, and he's heartbroken. So getting into the university you wanted for what you want to do is no small feat. We know that firsthand over here. So what initially inspired you to pursue architecture, and were there any pivotal moments or mentors along the way that shaped your journey?
Just from I remember in high school when I first got in, I was trying to find an elective for me. There was various electives that you could choose from, and one of them was graphic design, web design, architecture, and then just from my initial thoughts, I always like to draw. So I was like, you know what, like I want to do something where I could use my abilities, but also where it could be more practical. Like ever since I was in school, I was pretty good at math, and I thought architecture was math also. So I was like, you know what, let me try doing this. I always liked looking at like Legos or building stuff. So like, oh, there's like the ability to build models. That's what I did in high school. I remember building out a garage, like the framing of a garage, and I was one of the few ones like carried their model throughout school. But yeah, that was the initial aspect of it, and then my high school teacher, he's the one that really pushed me. He was like, if you really want to do architecture, like you should. He was also teaching in Long Beach City College, so he was like telling us like some of the classes that we could take at Long Beach City College. And then he told me about Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I got into Berkeley, but he really pushed me towards Cal Poly since it was one of the best schools. But he was one of my major influences. And then in college, some of my professors too. I remember my second year of college. My first year wasn't that demanding, but my second year, there was professors that were really pushing us. That's when we were getting into doing more studio classes, like 5-hour classes where you're working on projects. So really pushing yourself when you're like trying to create a project on your own, trying to put together models, 3D design, plans and everything. So I was really like influenced my second year, just trying to push myself. And that's something that I was do on my own. Like I always put myself in that perspective where I want to like do the best that I can at anything that I do. So these professors really pushed me, really invoked what it was to be in the career, and that's what I wanted to do ever since I got into college. I wanted to just pursue and be the best that I could be.
Cool. That's admirable. I know I didn't feel that way when I got to college. So looking back at your body of work, is there a particular project that stands out as your favorite, and what made that project so special for you both personally and professionally?
Just I remember just coming out of school. It was during the recession, so it was hard to find a job coming out of school. So I did do like an unpaid internship at that time coming out of school. I just wanted to get some experience, and I was working for a company. We were doing projects or research projects over in competitions over in China. So we were doing very futuristic projects, which is something that I was trying to pursue when I was in school, trying to design something more futuristic. But then after that, I did an internship I was working on the LA Holocaust Museum. So I was a part of the team as an intern, and I worked on the panels with all the names. So I worked on that project, and I went to go visit it when it was under construction. So it was something that people have to see right now. They're doing an expansion on the project, but it's a very unique project. And I remember going to visit it and just seeing it during construction. Then after construction, I went to go visit it with my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife. Went to go visit it and see it in person, which was great to see after the fact. So that was a big project that I remember coming out of school, just working on it and having a good impact on my career and what I thought about architecture. And then after that, like I mentioned, it was hard to find a job, so I was working on telecommunication projects all throughout Southern California, like cell phone towers. So I was working on those, but very unique ones. For example, like on like some church towers, like bell towers. So I was working on those. So seeing like from a very fast-paced career, we're working on like hundreds of projects to seeing those types of projects being built out. That's always the greatest factor for me. Just seeing like something that you design on paper become a reality, and then you just drive past it now. You're like, oh, you know what? I worked on that project.
That's
So
always a good feeling, isn't it?
yeah, it's always a good feeling.
Yeah. It's crazy how well you guys can camouflage those cell phone towers,
Yeah,
fake
yeah,
trees and all kinds of stuff. It's
yeah,
hilarious.
yep.
So in your inspiration, so in your creative process, what elements, whether it's nature, art, or cultural influences, consistently inspire your designs and your approach to architecture?
I think it's the culture and the environment that's happening. I think that's what inspires me in the architecture. Like for example, right now, a big influence is multi-generational living. So right now, because of high prices of homes, a lot of people are building ADUs, accessory dwelling units. So now, instead of like a kid trying to buy a house, a family member like their parents are looking at investing in their own backyard in order for their child or their children to come back and live on the property, but at a separate unit, or helping their elderly parents come live close by to them. So that's what I see is impacting my architecture right now, where it's a lot of multi-generational living, trying to invest in their own backyard because of the high cost of living, of trying to purchase a home. So that's what I see a lot right now.
Right. And so you're trying to match whatever the style is of that existing property kind of thing. Is that
Yeah, so it all depends on the city. Like for example, there's some cities that require you to match the style. There's other cities like the city of Long Beach where it could be a completely different style. So it does, even though like as like in the architecture field, we want to design things ourselves, have that inspiration. A lot of factors do come from the city as far as what their regulations are. So we're trying to work with the regulations and with our own design and with the client's design. They have sometimes clients come with their own industrial design of what they want it to look like. So it's trying to balance everything out to make something that works for everyone. Like I've had situations where a client comes with the design and I work with it, but then I tell them I changed this because of this factor, and they do see the benefit of going with what I thought about in order to make it a better design.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're serving a lot of masters. I know that from my time in the trades for sure. Starting to hear multi-generational housing a lot more now these days for sure, especially in California. So what else do we have here? So as the field of architecture continues to evolve, what trends or innovations are you most excited about, and how do you see them shaping the future of design?
Think what I see that's happening is and what needs to happen is like faster turnaround times. I think what a lot of people have complaints about or complain about is how long things take to get approved. So from the initial start to the very end for permits. So what I think that I see a lot is now things are like ever since COVID. Now things you could submit online. So I see that being a big factor where you're submitting online and being able to get things turned around more quickly. That programs too. I feel like now with programs you could do a lot more iterations of a project. So and a lot faster. So now if you want to change a look of a project for a different aesthetic, you could change it right away. It doesn't have to take that long. So now you could have different designs. You could do that is going to be a big help to see, well, for the clients. They want to not only just see like a 2D version of a project, but they want to see the 3D version, how things are going to look before it's even built. So that's a big factor. That plus the permitting process, I do feel like there's still some things that need to happen to get things permitted a lot faster. I think I think what we're gonna see too, there's gonna be an effect on the permitting process when it comes to, like, for example, the properties in Pacific Palisades. Like I don't think that's what one of the biggest factors that I see there is people wanting to rebuild because they think about how long it's gonna take to rebuild to get things approved. How long the construction is gonna be? Do people want to be living there while that's gonna be while all that is being constructed and wait that long to get it built? So I think during that time, I think there might be some initiatives to get things approved a lot faster, and hopefully that uh, gets filtered out to the different cities as well as how they did that in order to be able to get things approved and built in a timely fashion, which is something that everyone wants.
Yeah, and to dive a little bit deeper into that, what do you see, um, or do you feel there should be like a switch in materials that people are building with? Wood structures are just so flammable now, especially in those high risk areas. Do you think they should like have some codes where they need to start using concrete or steel or other projects or materials that are going to be less flammable?
I feel like you could. Also, I think what people don't realize is that some of these residential buildings were built out a long time ago and they weren't up to the standards like now newly built homes. I mean, I deal with a lot of clients where they ask about like setbacks or how close can I be to a property line? And people think that they could build right up to the property line when that's not the case. The reason why there's setbacks is for trying to impede, on fires because you want to be like at least 5 feet away from the property line, and then the other property next to you 5 feet away, so you have a 10-foot distance between each structure. So a fire can't jump over to the next property. So there's reasons why there's rules and regulations like setbacks. And if they are like closer, like having fire rated walls. So we do have that in place. But like you mentioned, we could look at different materials. For example, like in commercial properties, there's the use of metal studs a lot more than wood. So looking at metal studs and making sure maybe like because we do have 1/2 inch drywall, for example, but making everything 1 hour rated, like 5/8 inch drywall for throughout the home doing that. Now there's regulations where you have where it's a brand new build, you have to add fire sprinklers. So before, a lot of the homes did not have fire sprinklers. Now that's a new rule. Like for example, for
Yeah.
80.
That code is just interiors though, right? It's not exteriors.
Yeah, interior. That's interiors. Yeah, but you could, like for example, I was talking to one of the landscapers I work with, because there's some sprinklers that could be turned that could be for fire for the exterior. So adding some of those on the exterior. So also, like instead of maybe having wood fences, like having block wall fences or block walls for the on the perimeter. So doing that, yeah, just concrete or stucco plaster on the outside. So there's different ways we could mitigate this, but yeah, just thinking about that and having that be a part of the code. It's just that do feel like now with this is going to be more because of the fear of fires. Now there could be code regulation where you have to do something like this. But before, even though like uh, this could be a code, people always want to do their own thing. They want to have their own design, and they're like, oh, I don't like the look of this. But now with this, they're kind of like, okay, well, we need to do that. Now they see the positive aspect of it, but there's always the way of doing things. They're like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else.
Yeah, function over form for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some people up here in the Claremont Hills, their home burnt down twice. After the second time it burned, the insurance company said, no, we're going to rebuild in concrete this time. So now they'll weather the fires, right?
Yeah.
It just really seems like something's got to change here for sure, especially with the way the weather's been and going to continue to be, in my opinion, at least. So who is your ideal client? Could you describe what your ideal client looks like and how that partnership helps bring your architectural vision to life?
Right now, my ideal client, I work with a lot of homeowners that are looking for multi-generational living. So I work on a lot of ADU projects. So so I help people trying to maximize the potential of a property. So whenever a client comes to me, they tell me what they want to do on the property, and then I help them visualize it and talk to the city to make sure it's something that's feasible. But I also talk to them about the potential. A lot of people think that they can only add one ADU on a property. Sometimes you could add multiple units, not just one. So you can add, for example, like a junior ADU on a property if you're living at the property. So a 500 square foot junior ADU, an ADU, and then also an SB9 unit, which is another unit. So you have the potential to add 3 additional units to a property. So I help people maximize that potential and see if that's something that they want to do, because a lot of people are trying to create an investment for themselves for the future. So that's a lot of people that I'm currently working with. And so that, and also people that buy properties and then maybe get like a code violation once they buy a property because they never realized that they had an illegal addition or something, a structure that was never permitted on the property. So that's one of the reasons too. Like I did get my real estate license in order to help people because of that. There's a lot of people that buy properties and they were never told about this, and now they have to deal with this factor where they have to get things permitted, which is an extra cost to them. But if they would have known in the beginning or how to negotiate the price or how to get it permitted, I think it would have been helpful. But yeah, just trying to help people with code violations and multi-generational living and what the maximum potential for property is.
Yeah, and that can vary a lot from city to city, right? How many
Yes.
ADUs they can put on a property.
Yeah. Yeah. And the size of ADUs, there's the state law, but then there's also local ordinances. So it's always good to work with professionals to see what the maximum potential is of a lot and also what the maximum square footage is
Yeah,
for the units.
absolutely. And now you said you do a lot of the ADU stuff. Now, I think I also read you manage the project from start to finish as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
and help homeowners through the permit process and all that too?
Yeah. So how people like so I do all the drawings for permits for the design and permitting, and I submit the plans myself in order to try and get things approved faster. For example, at the city of Long Beach, they're really pro development. And I've gotten a project approved in 1 week and another one in 2 days.
That's
So
got to be
like
a record, dude.
yeah. So just imagine like a lot of the cities should be looking at that. How are they able to get things approved a lot faster? So and that also has to do with the design and being proactive. For example, like on those projects, I knew the process and I told the client like if you want to get approved fast, these are the necessary steps you need to take. Talk to the sanitation department for the sewer. Make sure these all these fees are paid at this time, so I can get things done a lot faster. So there's like communication between the designer and the client to get things done fast, and also reviewing the project so we're aware of all the comments and making sure everything's up to code. Making sure like because that's what I try to do. Try to put everything in the drawings to try and get it approved the first time. But if it's not approved the first time, there's minor comments where you could just get it done a lot faster. So that's what I try to do. But also it has to do with the city, like if they're open to communication. Like for example, the city of Long Beach, they're open to you communicating, going in person, talking to them, setting up an appointment. There's other cities where it's a lot harder to get a hold of the plan checker, so that's why it takes a lot longer. But that's what I try and do, trying to push to get things done fast, so we could start the construction a lot faster as well. So I do manage the project, make sure because I think it's helpful when you have the full history of the project from the initial plans all the way to the construction. Because if an inspector comes out and tells you, "Oh, this is you need to do this or you need to do that," you have the history as far as why it was done the way it was, and you're able to back up as far as why you did it the way you did it. So I think it's helpful, and it also is consistent with the design at the end of the day, which is you did the 3D, did the visualization, and you want the construction to come out the way you had planned it. So that's the reason why.
No, absolutely. And it does, man, that cohesiveness, having someone who's familiar with everything that's transpired every step of the way is so useful. I used to flip houses, so
Nice.
I get that totally because you don't even you're not necessarily going to get that same inspector out there every time. And it seems too that like there's each inspector has a little thing that they require that another inspector doesn't, right? And if you don't have somebody there with the knowledge of the project saying, well, we did this way because so and so said to do this, man, you could get lost in the damn shuffle, and then you got to schedule another inspection, and we know how that goes, right? It could be weeks before you see another inspector again, depending on the city, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with the plan checkers. There's different plan checkers with different things that they look at. Like knowing how to deal with that and having that experience is very helpful. Like, yeah, you can save a lot of money where you're trying to build out these additions or brand new construction projects.
Yeah, plan checkers can be a nightmare.
Yes.
And that is like each city is different as well, right? Like some of them I just have just man, it's like, do they even want to do their job? It seems like, to be honest, and I'm not going to name the city, but anyhow, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ulysses, if people want to get in touch with you, another question. So do you have like preferred contractors that you work with? I'm assuming you'll work with pretty much any contractor, but do you have preferred guys that you work with in case somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, draw us up. Can you draw us up plans and submit them and do the whole nine?"
Yes. So we do have preferred contract. It depends on the location of the project. For example, like we do have our own construction company, but we only work on projects here locally, like in Lakewood, Long Beach, the surrounding cities. But when it comes to like the Inland Empire or San Bernardino County, we have other contractors that we refer to, so that we could recommend. So yeah, we do work with various contractors, and it depends on the location. Because we want to make sure that there's someone there that's managing the project and making sure everything's going as planned per the drawings. So that's the reason why we work here, like for a construction company locally. So we're able to be there at every inspection, making sure things are being done in a timely fashion. So yeah, that's the main reason.
Now, do you have lenders as well that you work with?
Yeah, there's lenders too that we work with, different lenders. There's specific lenders that we work with that work on lending out for ADUs. So yeah, so there's different lenders as well.
So you really are kind of a one-stop shop then. Like you can from concept to end build, you cover all the bases.
Yes,
Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
it could be my phone number. My phone number is 562-252-6903. My email address, Ulysses at ucdesignstudio.com. My website, it's ulyssescarmona.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Uly_Carmona. That's my Instagram account. I'm also on Facebook as well under Ulysses Carmona. But yeah, those are different ways you could reach out to me.
Awesome. And we'll get all that in the post and the video description as well on how people can contact you. So I really appreciate your time. I'm sure, especially now with all the fires and everything, you're definitely someone people should be calling for work from start to finish. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And again, thanks for coming by today, and stick around after we stop recording and we can wrap a little bit more. So once again, thanks again, Ulysses.
Thank you, Rick.
To end the recording.